Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We have some pretty big updates to bring you today, including the government that may reopen tonight. What effect is that going to have on markets and your portfolios? We'll discuss it in today's video. Obviously, give you the latest on what these politicians are talking about today. Trump has introduced a plan to give $2,000 to all Americans. So another stimulus check. Hello. The country could probably use that at this point. There are reports coming out from the Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, that air traffic is about to get a whole lot more backed up if the government shutdown does not end. And that's really the reason why the government shutdown is about to end. I talked about this in one of the last videos, but I put it like this, politicians, they're just fine cutting people off of food. Like they're just fine taking that away from people. But you start to mess with your donors, stocks start to fall, people can't travel from A to B, and that becomes a big no-no, okay? That wasn't my opinion, that's what the government does, okay? That's their actions and what that has shown us. Now, in today's episode, we're also going to be talking about what Elon Musk just said about Tesla stock and much more. Ladies and gentlemen, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and check that link out down below in the description of today's episode if you guys want to come join the trading community where we are going out to find these under the radar AI stocks and invest in them, okay? We want to find the next 1,000%er. We don't want to buy the 1,000%er. We want to find the next one. And we've identified a bunch of opportunities that Wall Street is simply ignoring at this point. And I think there's tremendous value there. That link is down below. Come join us. But with that said, let's get started. Now, okay, in terms of what is going to pressure the government to reopen, okay, it's not cutting Americans off food. Like, the government could care less about that, okay? That's unfortunate. That's I think shows a major problem in politics, but something like this is really the main pressure on the government right now. Transportation Secretary Duffy warns that air travel will be reduced to a trickle, with flight cancellations worsening as the shutdown drags on. He says ahead of Thanksgiving, if the government is not opened, good luck flying anywhere. It says here, flight cuts could ramp up to 10% next week, as Duffy had warned they could reach 20%. So this is where the pressure is coming from on, from a political perspective. Now, also the quote-unquote economic harm that is being done, we're going to get into that in just a moment, also putting a lot of pressure on the government to get the situation resolved. Now, in good news today, China Commerce Ministry suspends the 2024 ban on approving exports to the United States of dual-use items related to gallium, germanium, antimony, and super hard metal materials. So that's seen as a positive step in terms of trade relations between our two countries. Donald Trump said on Truth Social today, he says, quote, "Pay the people, not the insurance companies." Donald Trump announces a $2,000 tariff dividend for Americans. President Donald Trump announced a $2,000 payment to most Americans funded by U.S. tariff revenues. In a Truth Social post, he said the U.S. is collecting trillions of dollars in tariffs and will use the money to reduce national debt and reward citizens, excluding high-income earners. Trump called tariff critics, quote, "fools," and claimed the U.S. is now the richest, most respected country in the world, citing record stock markets and 401k value. Which, there's going to be some people that say, these tariff payments could cause inflation, and there's definitely an argument to be made there, but there's also an argument to be made that the tariffs are being paid by American companies, right? As much as people say China's paying the tariffs, American companies are paying the tariffs. So it's really like a distribution from companies to Americans in the most simplistic way possible to explain it. Which in theory would not be inflationary. You really only get inflation via the late Milton Friedman when the government prints money and gives it away. That's what gives you inflation. Theoretically, taking from companies and giving to Americans should not be inflationary, but we would see. Palantir's CEO said something very interesting. He says, quote, if fentanyl was killing 60,000 Yale grads instead of 60,000 working class people, we'd be dropping a nuclear bomb on whoever was sending it from South America. That's a way of putting it. Scott Bessent today says the impact of the government shutdown on the economy is getting, quote, worse and worse. Bessent says that making substantial progress on inflation and expects prices to come down over the coming months. Donald Trump says, quote, Democrats are terrorizing Americans with the government shutdown. He says, quote, I'm sorry the American people are being terrorized by Democrats who shut down the government to keep Obamacare subsidies, massive giveaways to health insurance companies, and a disaster for Americans. Insurers' stocks have skyrocketed, while premiums have more than doubled. The money should go to the people for better health care and real competition. It's time to stop enriching insurance companies and start lowering premiums. I'm ready to work with both parties once the government is open. Stop terrorizing Americans, end failed policies. Which, it's kind of outrageous to think about it, but only 20 million Americans are benefited from the ACA tax credits, or the insurance credits, which is the reason why the government is shut down, but yet 42 million people rely on food assistance. That just doesn't make sense to me why they're fighting over that when other things are being harmed a lot more or to more people. Now, Hassett says GDP could be negative in the fourth quarter if the shutdown drags on. Now, this is the big news today. Bipartisan discussions are ongoing, and Senate GOP will conference early afternoon, a Politico reporter on X said. Now, the White House today ordered states to reverse SNAP payments. Now, on most betting markets like Kalshi and Polymarket, the expected length of the government shutdown is around 50 days. Well, we're on the 39th day today, and it looks like the government is probably going to reopen by tomorrow morning, and this is going to be seen as a big positive for the stock market, and we'll explain why in just a moment. But first, Hassett says the U.S. shutdown shaves 1.5% off GDP. That's a lot, okay? Hassett says prolonged closure could push Q4 negative. Hassett says that real consumer spending power up $1,200 under Trump versus a $3,000 drop under Biden. And you can see here, Democrats are ready to advance bills that may end the shutdown. At least 10 Senate Democrats may support advancing bills. Senate Majority Leader John Thune, which is a Republican, says the deal is coming together. Just in, a deal in the Senate to end the government shutdown is within reach. Multiple sources from both parties tell Axios. And this is kind of the outline of the deal as we understand it. Number one, the Senate could vote as soon as tonight to reconsider the House-passed continuing resolution, a procedural step requiring 60 votes. The final package will replace the CR, continuing resolution, with a new one, funding through January 30th, plus a 3-bill minibus. Without a time agreement, this could take several days. Most Senate Democrats are expected to oppose the deal, but the outcome is ultimately inevitable. Though any senator could delay the process. But normally when you're starting to get headlines like this, you're probably going to get a deal done. You're probably going to get the government reopened, and this is going to be massive for the markets. Number one, because a lot of people are expecting this is going to drag on for a while. Number two, you start to stop the economic harm that is being done. It's kind of impossible to estimate exactly how much damage is being done out in the economy, but we can say for sure it's not great. Like, having the government shut down this long is definitely an economic burden, okay? How much damage is being done, that is really hard to say. And number three, we start to get economic data again. Now, I don't know exactly how it's going to work, if we're going to have to wait till the next jobs report to get the last 2 jobs reports, or I don't know exactly how that's going to work, if we're going to get all of the data on one day, or you're just going to have to get to the next round of data and then you're going to get all 3 at once. But the fact of the matter is, on Friday, the estimate for the jobs report was negative 60,000. That is really not good. That's pretty recessionary-like numbers, okay? But the odds are pretty good that the situation is not that bad. Okay, if it's worse than that, we obviously have a problem, but I think it sets us up for an upside surprise in the economic data and from the market's perspective. Stocks have been selling off, small caps, AI, mid caps, like we're in a recession or very much going into one. Whereas the economic data might show, sure, things are not wonderful out there, but we're probably not in a recession. Okay, so that's why getting this government shutdown resolved could be such a positive for this market. Now, this also comes at a time in which the markets have been so bearish recently. The CNN Fear and Greed Index is sitting at 21. You're in extreme fear. At one point, it was around 15, which is almost as bad as it gets, okay? Market momentum is fear, stock price strength, extreme fear, stock price breadth, extreme fear, put and call options, extreme fear. Market volatility is neutral, safe haven demand is fear, junk bond demand currently in extreme fear. The AI Investor Sentiment Survey has been bearish for a while now. I mean, for the last month, you've been between 46% and 36%, which is historically very high for the amount of bears out there. And neutral investors have been in the range of 20.3% to 25.8%, which the last reading we had last week showed a lot of neutral investors and a lot of bearish investors, whereas the bulls are only at 38%, which is pretty low for a historical bull market, or even when you look at the S&P, for the S&P to be so high and there be so many bears and neutral investors, it's kind of impressive. Stocks have on the index level have held up so well. Now, the percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average coming in at about 38%. That's pretty much like correction-like levels, okay? So under the surface, you've pretty much already experienced a correction. I think that's where a lot of the pressure is really coming from on the government as well. Like, the government doesn't want stocks to crash, okay? That's not good for their political donors. That's not good for their political futures, okay? Inevitably, they're all going to be blamed for the government shutdown. Republicans maybe a little bit more, just because people blame the president as a default. But to have the stock market crash, that's a big no-no. And you are starting to see a lot of pressure get put on this market. Now, in the news today for Tesla has introduced a new car rental program at select U.S. stores. You can rent a Tesla for up to 7 days, starting at $60 a day. It includes FSD supervised and free supercharging for your entire rental. If you order a new Tesla within 7 days of your rental, you'll get a $200 discount on your purchase. Elon Musk says, or shares this post here, which is crazy. It says, the final boss in Musk's 2025 comp plan is achieving $400 billion in EBITDA. That is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. For perspective, the Saudi Arabian oil company Saudi Aramco achieved the highest annual EBITDA on record in 2022 at $238.24 billion, driven by elevated global oil prices, higher sales volumes, and strong refining margins amid geopolitical tensions and post-pandemic demand recovery. This figure surpasses other major companies like ExxonMobil at $102.59 billion in 2022 and Nvidia at $34.48 billion in fiscal 2024. Nvidia is a $5 trillion company, and they only did $34.5 billion in EBITDA. Imagine what Tesla's stock looks like if they hit $400 billion in EBITDA. Like, $8.5 trillion market cap is super conservative. You could see a market cap of over $20 trillion for Tesla at those kind of levels. Elon Musk shared this post and says, it sure is a tall order. Anyone can buy Tesla stock right now and come along for the ride. There will inevitably be some bumps along the way, but with a truly immense amount of work, I think these goals can be accomplished. Now, in option activity on Friday, you had 304 different trades totaling $361 million with a positive order value of 84%. So you've really seen this market come back to life towards the end of the day on Friday, and the option activity really started to fly in Tesla stock. Now, you did have about 362,000 shares that were sold short on Friday, but I think there's going to be a lot of shorts that are looking to start covering on some of these short positions as Elon's compensation package has been approved, and as maybe some of the headwinds facing this market, like the government being shut down, are going to get resolved. I mean, just the government getting open again, I think gives this market a pretty aggressive tailwind when even November is historically the strongest month out of the year, right? You get the government reopened and things could really start to fly here. Now, the big question becomes, once the government is reopened, how bad is the economy? Okay, is it worse than feared? Is it better than feared? Is it kind of in line with expectations? That is then the big question. Now, for Tesla stock specifically, the stock has sold off the last couple of days because of what is going on in the government, and there really isn't anything that you can do. There isn't really anything that Tesla can do because of that. As recession fears rise, it doesn't matter how good the situation looks for Tesla, because it looks really good right now. The business is doing well. Q3 deliveries were really good. Q4 is likely to be really good. There's massive growth in robotaxi even coming here in the next month or two, expanding to 8 to 10 cities by the end of this year. That was Elon and the Tesla executives' guidance on that. But there's just nothing you can do if you see, the government shut down, markets are crashing, recession fears are rising. Thus, when this government shutdown does end, which hopefully is here in the next couple of hours, you're going to see Tesla stock go through a pretty aggressive rally to the upside, in my personal opinion. And if we get the economic data that shows the economy is not as bad as feared, like we're not doorstep to a recession, you're going to have, Tesla specifically rallying into the end of this year. $500-$600 a share could easily be in the cards. So let me know your thoughts on all of this down below in the comment section. Hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and check that link out down below in the description of today's episode if you guys want to come join the trading community. But with that said, have a great rest of your day. Now we'll see you in the next one.